All right. Well, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Why Influence podcast. Today, I'm pretty excited because we have Joe Raiti from Raiti's Rides. He was a guest back on episode 7, I believe. And back then, Joe Raiti, he's got a YouTube channel. He's doing reviews with cars. So he'll go test drive cars or go review cars at car shows. And he's been doing it daily content. And now it's more than daily. He's done multiple videos per day. When we talked last time, you're about a year and a half into your YouTube channel. You had 86,000 subscribers and you had 22 million views. And today, less than a year later, you've got 258,000 subscribers and 78 million YouTube views. So that's I did a quick calculation, 250% growth in views and 200% growth in subscribers since the last time we talked, which is amazing. So your hustle is like unstoppable. It's impressive to see what you're doing. So I'm excited to have you today. So thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks. I'm very excited to be back, and it's funny. It seems like it's been longer, but it really hasn't.
Right.
The last time we talked.
Yeah. So much has happened.
Definitely.
So, real quick, before we jump into things, do you want to give like a quick, 2-sentence summary about what your brand is about, just so it's coming from your side?
Sure, of course. Well, on Raiti's Rides, it's all about sharing the car passion through different car reviews, and the whole thing is we cover them all. We cover all different brands, models, trim levels. It's not just about showing the fancy, fully decked out ones. I show base models. I'll also do supercars, exotics, and everything in between. But the whole thing is to help either people learn about the car that they're interested in or learn about cars in general, but also share my passion for cars and all the good stuff that goes with that.
Awesome. And so you're getting people, I mean, I remember last time we talked about how you've had a lot of unintended impact on people where, you're creating closer relationships with father-son relationships. You're helping people cope with depression in some instances. So is there anything recent that's come up for a memorable moment or story for you?
I think the biggest thing, obviously with the situation that we're currently in worldwide, I think that the amount of thank yous that I get for people looking forward, having that thing, because we do daily videos every single day, there's a new car review, at least one. And like you were saying earlier, there's now more that I do, and we could talk more about why I'm doing that and all that. But I think people saying, listen, I'm in quarantine. I'm sick of looking at the news. I can only watch Netflix so much. You give me that I almost feel like I'm with you interaction. It's not so much that I'm just watching you do a car review, but I feel like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with Joe today. And what cool cars are we going to look at? Or what cars are we going to look at, period? And I think that's been the nice thing to hear, because, it's interesting how every single state, every single city has gone through, is going through this situation, has gone through this situation so differently. And I count my lucky stars each and every day that I've been able to still get to dealerships and have access to cars so that I could make the content. Because that was a big concern for me, was when the pandemic first hit, I was like, uh-oh, if everybody's in lockdown mode, how am I going to be able to get access to make content to bring to people? So that's one thing, is that I've just been able to see a little bit more where people are just grateful because they're at home and they get that interaction, that human interaction, even though I'm not with them per se.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And especially since I've had people cancel on interviews because they're like, it's not a good time right now. I'm not creating YouTube content, and they've had to shut down their business, their brands.
Definitely. You're 100% right. And it's been interesting, because the biggest thing that people have come to me with is they're like, well, Joe, this is going to be mega for you because everybody's home and everybody's just going to watch YouTube. But what I discovered is when the pandemic first hit, I actually had a big decline in views, because I think people were in panic mode. People were trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? I'm now at home. maybe I have my kids at home and I got to take care of them a little bit more, focus on what they're doing a little bit more. I'm working from home. So how am I going to do that? And what, so in the beginning, views were I think my views, my like revenue and stuff took a hit of about 40% decline for last month. And it was all because people were trying to figure out how to now navigate through their daily lives. And a lot of people were watching Raity's rides when they were on the subway to work or coming home from work, the subway ride or the train ride, or, let's face it, sometimes when we're at work, like sitting in our office, it's real easy to be able to squeeze in a couple of YouTube videos here and there, just to kind of, break up the monotony of the day, where now you're at home. And like I said, you may be sharing computers with your family members. You may have to, obviously focus on them a little bit more, which doesn't allow you the freedom to watch the videos. But the good news is that I'm seeing now an uptick, and I just think that we're getting more used to being at home and working from home and balancing our schedule to fit everything in.
Yeah, I agree. And so it was like, I think it was 2 months or so ago. It was right when the pandemic was earlier in its time that we touched base, and you're like, I'm in crank mode right now, but let's do an interview after we get through this.
Yeah.
And you said that you were recording 8 videos a day. Is that?
So yeah. So what happened was when the pandemic first, like, to go back to March, the last media event that I went to with one of the car OEMs was Honda and Nissan. It actually was in the same week. I went to Texas with Nissan and then literally flew home for a night. And then my wife and I got on a plane to go to Arizona with Honda. And that was right at the cusp as this was starting to spread that, New York, there's a city in New York, a area in New York that's going into lockdown. That was the last of the media events. So when I got home from that Honda event, I was like, okay, there's no way I'm going to let this thing beat what I got going on here. Because, from the last time that we talked, I've put so much effort. My wife and I and everybody else that helps out that's part of this has put so much effort and work into growing this channel and this brand and everything. There's no way I'm going to just let this fall apart. So I went into this panic mode where I was literally every day filming about 7 to 8 cars a day to try to just build a treasure chest, so to speak, so that if our city, our state went into lockdown, I would then still at least be able to put up 1 video a day and have some kind of footage. So that was where I was at then. And now that I've seen how Florida has navigated through this, obviously, because dealerships are essential businesses, and because I'm classified as a journalist, as an automotive journalist, I've been able to still get out there. And obviously I follow, just like all the businesses, I still follow all CDC procedures. When I go up to the dealerships, they've already cleaned the keys, put them in an envelope, they hand that to me, and then I'm outside the whole time. So I'm kind of away from everybody, which is kind of nice, because I'm outside and I'm away from everybody. So we've been able to still, go through that. I wipe down the car, steering wheel, the whole, it takes a little bit more time now, but hey, at least I'm able to still do it. And now that anxiety level has kind of dropped down to where I could just do a couple cars, 2 to 4 cars a day, rather than, because 7 to 8 was, it was a steamroll. It was pretty intense.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see, dive a little bit deeper into how your world's changed. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about advice for people that want to get into YouTube. So like if you were to meet someone that's just starting out or new to YouTube, what would be some of your biggest advice for those people?
Sure. Well, it's to kind of tie back to where we were talking before. I think over the past, I would say, month or so, maybe month and a half, I've had a lot more people reach out to me, say, Joe, man, you inspire me. I love your passion about cars. I want to start my own channel, or whether it's a car channel or whatever. And they're always asking me, what do I need to do? What do I need to go and buy? My first piece of advice is you really don't need to buy anything. If you have a update phone of some type, some smartphone, doesn't even have to be an iPhone 11. It could be an iPhone 10 or whatever. You could start filming with that. I mean, the picture quality if you do have an iPhone 11, the picture quality is phenomenal. You'll be able to create the content and go in the direction you want to go in. And what you need to focus on is what feels good to you, and just do it. I think 9 out of 10 times, the reason why nobody wants to start this idea that they have is because of fear. And they think that it has to be perfect. And what I have found in my short travels through this YouTube journey that I'm on with everybody is a lot of times people don't want perfect. And it's okay, because there's channels, I'll talk about car channels. There's car channels where everything is perfect. They got beautiful intro music. They got this BRoll. It's almost like Steven Spielberg shot it. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But not everybody wants that. And that's okay. It's nice to have the variety, and it's nice to do it the way that we're doing it, where we're just, focusing on a little bit more like natural, raw kind of stuff. But I think, going back to your question, the biggest piece of advice is, first of all, start filming. Take your phone, get out there. The only thing that I did for the first 7 months, like I said before, was a $90 investment in a gimbal. If you don't know what a gimbal is what stabilizes the image. So you take your phone, you plug it into the gimbal, and then that's going to allow you to at least have nice, smooth videography going on, rather than you just holding your hand and shaking. But other than that, I used a AirPod as a Bluetooth microphone. And for 7 months, 1 million channel views, I was good to go.
Right. Yeah. And I've quoted you before since our last conversation, because you did talk about how you used your cell phone and you got your first 1 million YouTube views, which is a pretty powerful statement. There's no excuse for someone else to say, I need all this equipment. It's similar with podcasting too. People think you need to spend all this money. I mean, This is a $60 microphone. You can use your cell phone in a closet if you want. So.
It's crazy. It really is. And the funny thing is that I think what people just need to remember is that you need to put the time in.
Yeah.
People see the videos on the channel and they're like, man, I would like to do this. And that's great that they're being inspired, no matter if it's my channel or anybody else's channel, but they just need to remember it's more just putting the time in and doing the work and feeling good about what you're doing. You need to first put something out there for people to let you know whether they want to see it or not.
Right.
And it's not about getting everybody to love it, because that's impossible. But the good news is that there's over 7 billion people in the world. So even if you got a small piece of that pie, hey, you're going to be doing pretty good with getting people to follow what you're filming.
Yeah. And you talked a lot about how you don't need to be perfect, and that comes up all the time in my interviews. Actually, at the top of my website, I have a slogan that says, people don't want perfect, they want authentic, because authenticity is really what people are looking for.
You're right. And especially, if you're doing any kind of, sharing of products, especially, with me in cars, I feel like when you're too perfect, people start to get a little antsy about that, and they think that maybe you're trying to sell them something. The great news about what I do is I really don't care whether somebody buys the car or not. I mean, that's not my goal of the video. The goal of the video is for me to say, hey, here's a car here. Let's check it out. Let's see what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and see if you fall in line with that. And you know what? If I make a mistake here, if I misquote information, they understand, and that's the thing, that as time goes by and you interact with your subscribers and your followers, they'll appreciate the mistakes, because that makes you more like them, human. And we're all human, and we're all going to make mistakes. I mean, if you're trying to avoid that, it's going to be a tough road for you if you're trying to not make any mistakes. You got to make the mistakes because you learn from them. And like I said, I think sometimes people enjoy it when I make mistakes, because it's like, hey, Joe's a normal guy too. He's not this guy just reading stats off of a sheet or something.
Right. So sharing is obviously a ton of work, and you got to be consistent with it. So you can't start a YouTube channel and create a video and say, "Oh, I got one viral video, I'm good." Like you have to keep going and keep doing the grind. And I think it's pretty fortunate that you found something that you're so passionate about that you can create 2 to 4 videos consistently every day and still wake up in the morning, be excited about what you do. And so I think finding your why is really important, which is a lot of what my podcast is about. But do you have any advice for people? Because I think that very few people that I know or have met, even the fact that I have, am in the car industry, can do what you do, because that's something that you're passionate about, right? Like it's not like you can say, hey, you can go. How about you go create 3 to 4 car review videos every day? Someone might just start getting tired and stop. So on top of just getting started and doing something, you really have to refine your why. So like what did that look for you, or how did you stumble upon something that made you so unstoppable that you're so passionate about?
It's one of those things that over my life I have found that when I'm into something, I just like to just wrap myself up in it like a nice blanket and just absorb all of it. And you know doing the car reviews and being able to just be around the cars, it's interesting because it reminds me of my childhood, growing up at my dad's mechanic shop and being around cars, and it's almost like soothing in a way sometimes to be doing the reviews, because it does bring me back to being a kid and just being in awe, when you first see that one car that just makes your heart pitter patter. And it's fascinating because I think the challenge is that I find is sometimes there's cars that I really don't care about, but I know somebody out there does, and I think that from being a high school teacher for so many years, I look at it as, okay, this is somebody, if somebody likes this, I need to kind of show it to them in a positive way. But I'm able to somehow find this balance to point out some of the things that I don't like. But one of the keys is I always finish on a high note. So I think that was something with my why is when I started this whole thing, I didn't want to be that negative Nancy. I didn't want to be like ranting and raving about this car's a piece of junk. And if you watch any of my reviews, which right now we have over 1,300 of them on the channel, none of them end on a negative note. Even some of the cars that didn't really do it for me, there's still something that you could find to talk about. And I think that's something that people need to realize, is that try to bring in that positiveness, because that's another thing that people seem to point out in my reviews. It's not just about, oh, you're talking to us natural and you're showing us all these cars. They just like hearing my positivity. And it's not something that I sit there and I'm like saying to myself, okay, here's where I need to be positive, here's where I need to be positive. It just kind of comes to me naturally. But I think people need to focus more on just doing that thing that makes you feel good, will allow you to keep that pace going. But I'll be honest, it's not all rainbows and moonbeams and just life's a bowl of cherry type of thing. There's been days where I don't want to get up and go film. I mean, especially those days where I was doing the 8 a day and all that kind of stuff. And I've been trying to find that balance. That's been probably the biggest challenge in all of this, is that even though I love it as much as I do, you still got to balance it, because there is that old saying, beware about making your dream your job, right? Because it could kind of lose some of that luster sometimes. But it's all about the balance. And right now for me, like we talked about in the last podcast, time management has been a challenge for me. And I think that's something very important, because in the end, whether you're doing this, just to influence people or just to share your passion or your love or whatnot, if it gets to the point where now you're making a living off of it, it's a business. And you need to make sure that you're using time management so that you don't get burnt out, because that obviously can happen.
Yeah. And in regards to time management, I'm sure a lot has changed from the last time we talked in regards to the team and the workflow and everything that you're doing. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? Like, what does your team look like right now, and what is like a typical workflow of like a video that you create?
Sure. So basically, I'm still operating on. Um, I have a cameraman by the name of Tom who does most of the filming with me at the dealerships and whatnot. My wife, Lori, has really stepped up. She's become not only a videographer when we go to the big auto shows, but she's become my production manager. So a day in our lives, which she still has her full-time job.
Really?
So yeah,
Okay.
she's still doing her full-time job. She helps me whenever she's able to squeeze some time aside. Tom and I pretty much are the ones doing this full time. So basically, the way it would work is in the morning, I would get a few notes together on what I want to talk about. I find that you want to have a little direction. You don't want it scripted out. Whatever you're going to film, it's not like you want it to script out and you just sit there and read it. I mean, you could do that, and if
And
it works for you,
this is you like starting the day knowing, okay, I'm recording like these 2 to 4 cars. Like, going into it, like what you're doing.
like tomorrow morning, I'm going to be heading over to Montu Motors, the new location,
Yeah.
and I know that I'm going to be talking about a Mitsubishi and I'm going to be talking about a Toyota. So I have some information that I've just wrote down, some jotted information, so that when I head out there, I have that direction. When we go to film, it's all about getting the car in the proper lighting, getting it angled properly. The good news is that all the reviews pretty much go down the same exact way. And that has made it easier for me to produce so much content. When we go to film, I do the exterior first. I do underneath the hood. We do an engine startup. We do the interior. And what happens is that when it comes to editing, which editing is probably the most time consuming and not so much fun thing for me, at least, it makes it easier. Because now when I do the drives on a lot of the videos, I use 2 GoPros, getting that all synced up to where my mouth is moving with the audio properly, so it doesn't look like some, old kung fu movie or something like that that's been dubbed over. It just takes time. So I go and I film. We'll usually film. I'll probably be out. We'll start filming at 9:30. I probably don't stop filming until about 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon. As soon as I come home, now it's getting the stuff uploaded onto the computer. I want to spend some time answering comments, and it's all about now getting the videos ready that I'm going to post that night. They're not the videos that I film for the day. Those will take a couple days to edit and all that, but I already got 2 uploaded onto YouTube that are held private, so that I could then do what I need to do, type in a description, get a title going, the tags, and then that's when I'll post those 2 videos that night. But I try each and every day to block off some time to answer comments. That's very, very important. And then obviously the time, blocking off the time to do the editing.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for breaking out the day.
Sure.
That was very detailed and helpful. So what's some stuff that's been going on with you as far as just changes, and what are you excited about, or what's going on?
So it's been interesting, with the pandemic situation. I had a lot of exciting things on the table that kind of got wiped clean. I actually got invited and was going to go the week before the pandemic kind of like just went haywire here in the United States. I was set to get on a plane to go to Switzerland with Toyota for the Geneva Auto Show. And because of the situation, that got canceled. I was going to be doing a track day with Honda and the new Type R at Road Atlanta. That kind of got squashed.
Nice.
But the good news is that because of some of the relationships that I formed in the industry, I was able to kind of pick up some pieces and move forward. Because I'll be honest with you, I was pretty bummed out. I was looking forward to go. I've never been to Switzerland in my life. This is all paid, everything paid by Toyota, and to go to the Geneva Auto Show was going to be mind blowing. So I was bummed out about a few of these things that kind of got canceled. I mean, I understood why, but sometimes that doesn't make it feel any better at the end of the day. But the good news is some of my contacts with the OEMs, I was able to get into some really good cars. For example, I was the first in the country to get my hands on the updated 2021 Supra. And that allowed me to kind of get some of that revenue and some of the views that I lost because of the cancellation of the big auto shows. That kind of got me going a little bit. The things that I'm looking forward to now is that, now life is starting to slowly get a little bit more normal, whatever that means. The good news is that the factories are opening up again. So a lot of these cars that I was able to show, like at the Chicago Auto Show, are now going to finally be built, and I can actually do the full review at the deal. Because that's one of the things a lot of people have been asking me, like, Joe, where's the 2021 Yukon? Where's the 2021 Escalade?
Right.
These are all redesigned. Well, guess what? They're not there yet. So it's not like I could go down to the local Cadillac dealership and go review one, because they literally don't have them built yet. One thing that I've learned to do that I'm now excited, that I've become more excited about, is doing virtual car reviews. I know that may sound a little bizarre, but what I have been able to get. So, for example, this Friday, right? I think the 28th is this Friday. Acura is unveiling their new TLX, totally redesigned for 2021, and they're bringing back the TLX Type S. I am getting BRoll footage from Acura so that I can do a virtual walk around. Once they do theirs, I can then put that information on Raity's Rides and actually do a virtual review of the Acura TLX. And I found that even though I don't have the car in front of me and I can't be the usual Joe Raiti from Raity's Rides, people are still enjoying that information and getting some of my input on it right away before having to wait until I eventually see it in person, which who knows when that would be.
Right.
So that's
it lets you be a lot more timely with some of the new stuff that's out there.
Yeah, definitely.
So what does that look like for you? Is that you'll do a voiceover, and are you on video too, and you'll cut scene back and forth, or?
Yeah. So what I did was I invested because of my wonderful wife Lori. She knows a lot about production setup on like an actual set with lighting. So we went out, got some special lighting so that I could kind of create a little atmosphere to where it looks good. Because it's not about looking perfect, but I at least want to look good.
Right.
And what I do is I set up a tripod and actually film myself. I have the computer in front of me, and I film myself talking while the footage is going. So that way, what I do is when I go to post the review, I'll have a little snippet before it, welcoming everybody, and I'm gonna be like, I did with the Toyota Sienna. They just released the 2021 Toyota Sienna. I was like, okay, guys, we're going to walk through this together. So I literally had my laptop to get right there in front of me, and I was talking while they're able to see the B-roll on their screen, and then I'm kind of like a picture in a picture.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it to just be my voice. I mean, I could have taken that route and it would have been a little bit easier, but I kind of wanted them to still see me. And I think that's important for people who are wanting to grow a channel, is especially if they're the ones that are always talking, is you have to be the image of your brand. And I think that's one thing that we have done that really has helped, is that, when you go on YouTube, every single one of my car reviews, I'm in it. I'm in that thumbnail somewhere. So that helps make that association with Raity's Rides.
Yeah. Awesome. So like how many, like when you prepare for that, you see the B-roll, obviously, are you watching that a couple times and you do one take, or is it?
Yeah. I watch it pretty much once, because I don't, here's the craziest thing, is because I just don't have that much time to really sit there and watch the B-roll over and over and over again. I'll watch it once, maybe twice, look over the fact sheet, and then we're off and we're at the races. We're doing it in one take. And that all comes from being a high school teacher for so many years. I mean, I kind of, and for better or worse, I wasn't the type of teacher that wrote out these long lesson plans and wrote each day down by the minute and all that kind of stuff. I would come in before school started, look over what I wanted to talk about, write up a few things on the board, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Like I operate better than having it all just scripted and just doing it in one take. It just cuts down on the amount of time and it allows me to get all this stuff up, because there really would be it would be impossible if I had to sit here and do one take after. And then what I also find is that people love it when you don't have a bunch of edits. Like sometimes people will go to film like maybe a 10-minute little vlog that they're doing, and maybe they'll make a mistake and then reshoot it, but then kind of people still see it. They still see that it changed.
Yeah.
They kind of like the way it's just a nice flow, and we just kind of get through it. It's funny because it always puts the biggest smile on my face when my wife is helping me film, and she still to this day is just blown away how I could just turn on, like when it's time to film, game on, and we go, and there's no stopping.
Right. I think that what we talked about earlier with your, it doesn't need to be perfect, and you're bringing your authenticity to the table helps with that, because one, you're limited on time, which is also helping, and the fact that you've been doing this for a long time, but then, you want to be authentic about it, and people see that when you're creating the videos. And if it's too perfect, maybe people won't feel as attracted to that.
Well, and I think one thing I want to point out too is one of my favorite subjects that I used to teach was psychology. And one thing that I think people don't understand is that the way our brains operate, where are all of our logic, our judgment, all of you is in the part of the brain called the frontal lobe. And what happens is when you get frustrated, so every time if you're filming yourself, and you're getting frustrated, and it's like, no, this isn't good enough, let's redo it. No, this isn't good enough, let's redo it. What's happening is your frontal lobe temporarily shuts down. I mean, think about it. Think about when you're in an argument with someone and you're so frustrated, and by the time the argument's like you stop finally, you don't even know what you were arguing about anymore. You don't even remember what you said, because this whole part of your brain is out to lunch. So the thing is when you're filming yourself, if you are doing retakes, watch the frustration level. My advice is, if you're getting really frustrated, walk away for a second. Come back to it, because the more you push, you're not going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's great advice.
Yeah.
So there's, since we've talked last time, I've had a lot of listeners requests that I asked just from a high level, like sources of income for different influencers to see just like how people are making a living doing what they're doing. And I know that when we talked last time, you sort of announced that you had just recently left your job as a teacher.
Sure.
But do you mind sharing just a high level, where the sources of income are coming from you, like if they're coming from views or from the apparel and things like that?
It's fascinating, because pretty much most of the revenue all comes from views, and everybody does it differently. It's a challenge though to have it come from the views, because what happens is, like the situation that we're in, YouTube cuts back on percentages that they pay for each monetized view. Or one thing that I've been noticing is in certain times when a review is up, when one of my vlogs are up or whatever, there may not be any ads that come up. So that's been something that my wife and I we're trying to figure out, like, how can we get other streams of revenue? Now, we do have Raiti's Rides merch, and we do get sales from that, but still the bulk for what we do is purely from the monetization aspect of the ads being placed in the videos. But one thing that I really want to, you know, one of the challenges that we faced is, you know, trying to get my wife to be able to come on full time, you know, to have that revenue stream to where she could come on full time and then do other things to generate even more revenue. Like, for example, Patreon. That is something that's always fascinated me. And that is something that I think as the channel grows, to get people access to you, I feel like people who want to have the access would be wanting to sign up for Patreon. And if your listeners don't know what Patreon is, basically Patreon is a way for you to support your favorite, whoever, you know, your YouTube person is or whatever. It's like a subscription service. There's different levels. You pay, say, $5 a month, and they interact with you on a closer level than people who are non-members of Patreon, for example.
Yeah, it's sort of like donating to the creators, and it's a recurring basis, which is a pretty stable income. And if you get small amounts from a large group, then, you know, that's a pretty stable income. And then a lot of people, you know, will create exclusive content for those people, or have like meet and greets that are more intimate in those communities. So it's a way for creators to have like a source of income that's generated.
But for our channel, it's been, the majority of it has been purely ad revenue, because, you know, right now we are trending about almost 7 million views every 28 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been pretty phenomenal. I have to admit, we're trending every 28 days, and that's after the drop. Like, I was up to about 8 million views every 28 days when the auto shows were in full swing, like the Chicago Auto Show and stuff. Then we had a slight dip, and it's funny when I say dip, I'm talking about a couple million views, which may seem like a lot, but because we put out so much content, I've been able to kind of change the curve again to where now we're closer to 7 million views every 28 days.
Yeah, I see that here, and you're sitting around 20,000 new subscribers every month right now.
Yeah, it's been it's quite incredible. It really is. It still blows my mind how, because there's people, I'm telling you, there's people that talk to me and they're like, man, how do you do it? I have a channel and I can't even get 5,000 subscribers in a year. You're getting it like in a couple days, you know? So it's fascinating how, I don't know, you know, it's very fascinating.
Yeah. Well, the system that you got is working well. So I think that you keep at it, and it's just going to keep going. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that you brought up that I was excited about is now when we do have the ability to travel to different places, we have meet and greets. Like, for example, Chicago Auto Show, we stuck around. So because I'm an automotive journalist, we go for the media days. Media days obviously closed to the public. Makes it easier to film. We could kind of talk more with the OEMs and things like that. What we did for Chicago Auto Show, and we actually first tried in LA, but a little differently last year when we went to the LA Auto Show. This year in Chicago, we stuck around for the first general admission day. And when I say we, my wife and I, and we already put on all our different social media platforms saying, hey, we're going to be at the first day of the Chicago Auto Show. We're going to be over at this area at this time, from this time to this time. If you're going to be at the show and you want to come say hi, get a picture or something, come by, say hello. We had about 100 people show up for that meet and greet. Yeah, it blew my mind. And those are the things I love, is being able to meet the people in person that support you and really see just how grateful they are for you to be doing what you're doing, and how you're enriching their lives. I mean, it still blows my mind that, you know, I could talk about cars and makes people feel good. You know, it's cool like that.
It is. Yeah, that's a great turnout. And I could see how, you know, physically interacting with those people it changes the feeling of it.
Definitely.
So just revisiting the income sourcing thing, have you ever asked your community what they would be interested in? Because that's something that comes up a lot is, you may think, oh, well, Patreon's the right choice, or this is the right choice for my community. But oftentimes there may be something that you don't think about that could be a better choice. And the best source of finding what people are willing to contribute would be the ask. I'm just curious if you've had those conversations with the community.
I really haven't yet, and I guess the reason why is because I feel like I don't want to ask it until I'm 100% ready to put something together. And that's been the hang up so far with Patreon, is that, we have so many pieces of the puzzle together. Like I obviously I made the Patreon account. We have different levels built into it already, but to have that attention to be able to create that special content, create that special interaction, I want to make sure that I'm able to deliver on that, because I never want to over promise and under deliver. That's
Right.
one of my biggest fears. So I think as I get a little bit closer to where I can have a little bit more support from people being part of the team, the working team, whether it be my wife that comes on board or somebody else that can handle that aspect. I don't want to put the question out there yet until I'm
Makes
100%
sense.
sure that I can do, because you ask and then nothing happens for a year, that it's kind of lost its momentum,
Definitely.
and that's the thing that I want to just make sure that I'm ready. If they're ready, I want to be ready to do that. But that's a great, thank you for that suggestion, because that is something that I think if you ever want to know what to do, ask the people that
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah. I mean, I think Patreon is a good move in general, but there could be unexpected things that come up by asking. So I think what you're doing is right too, because if you ask and then you wait too long and you don't deliver, and then you put it out, say like 3 months from now, and that momentum goes away, then you may have lost like the initial people like, oh, I'm ready to back this person. Like, how do I do this?
Definitely. No, and that's been a challenge in many different ways with a lot of different things, even like with merch, with getting the merchandise out there. It's you have to keep reiterating, and that's one thing. It's like I almost feel like I'm back sometimes in my high school classroom, where you have to reiterate that, hey, we have merch. This is where you get it. Click the link down there. It's you gotta give them that reason why. Just like we're talking about, like what's the reason why for you starting your social media platform, whatever it's going to be, whether it's YouTube or you're an Instagrammer or whatever. You have to give them the why of going to the merch store or watching your channel. One thing that I've been doing that has been a little successful is that if I film a special car, a car that I know that is going to be popular already, I will work hard to try to put those teaser posts on Instagram, on Facebook, on the community page of YouTube, to get people excited about it. Because I find that, if you just give them a reason to get excited about it, they'll tune in. If you just think, oh, if I just put this video up and then all these people are going to gravitate towards it, it doesn't always plan out that way. So that's something that I've learned, which takes extra time, of course. That's that one word, time, that no matter how much money you have or what you do, you just can't get enough of it. But by doing, having a schedule and saying to yourself, okay, this car that I filmed, I know that I want it to be big and I feel like it's going to be big, but let me build that excitement and do those teaser posts as we go along the week. And then, hey, Friday, tune in, look at this type of thing.
Yeah. I've been working on that too, because a lot of the interviews I'm doing now are live streamed, like this one. And, I'm not doing the best job of pre-promoting those live streams. So when we go live, it's like the people that are subscribed that can tune in and join. But I'm not saying, hey, this is the schedule for the week.
Sure.
So things like that are, of course, it takes time.
It does. One thing that we've been doing is each month, at least once a month, I've been doing a live Q&A. And for whatever reason, it's always been on a Thursday. And it seems to be popular for whatever reason on a Thursday. I would like to try out other days as well, but then it just, comes in that whole time issue. But the last time we went live, we had about 350 people watching. And that has been another great way to connect with people. Another little thing that I've tried, which is great for kind of connecting with people, is doing a premiere. So if you don't know what a premiere is, basically when you have a video ready to rock and roll, say you don't want it to go up until Friday, you can actually premiere it to go live on Friday. And then what happens is it actually creates on when you click on the thumbnail, you'll actually have a box on the right where you could live chat with people while the video is playing.
Okay,
and
you've been doing that.
That little extra something, that little extra talking, and just a way that they feel. I just find that if people can relate to you more, they're going to want to watch more of you. That's.
So you've been experimenting that, like a random video here and there. You'll do the premiere and be there live to comment.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, you got to make sure you're. There was one I did because I didn't really realize what it was, because all that I've been doing is just been like trying. Like I try it, and then I kind of discover, well, oh, okay, so that's how it's supposed to work. So the first premiere I didn't realize that even had that as an option. I didn't even know. I thought it was just a way to kind of put it up there so that it shows on your YouTube channel page, but they couldn't click on it yet. Because see, the thing that I have to work around sometimes is when I'm working with, say, Toyota or with Honda directly, not a dealership, but for example, that information on Friday about the new TLX, that information is in what's called embargoed. I'm not allowed to talk about it. Like I can't, like I could tell you I have it. I mean, it's not like that kind of secretive, but if you want to know right now, like how much horsepower is the new TLX going to have, I can't tell you. Like this, I'm not allowed to. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to let people know that, hey, I have this information. I can't tell you what it is yet, but I want to let you know it's there. So when I made my first premiere, I thought it was just letting me show that okay, this video is going to post. But then after it posted and I saw that people were chatting live, and I was like, oh, I could actually chat with them. So the next time I did it, like when I did the Toyota Sienna, I literally was sitting here, and while the video was playing and stuff, I was chatting with them on YouTube. So that made it more. Then I was like, oh, so that's what that's for.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing about just sharing in general is the experiment, and you may find that certain things work differently than you expect, and also that some things may work better. I mean, I've heard that Premiere could have benefits potentially for like ranking higher and having more engagement. And so like experimenting with it is great. I think that's awesome.
Hey, you gotta just, play around with things. I mean, I guess I could sit here and, Google what is a YouTube premiere and read, and I'm sure I could do that, but a lot of times I don't have the time to do that, or I don't even know what to ask, or I just do it and just go from there.
Yeah. So, we talked last time, a bit less than a year ago. We've talked today. What are some things that you're looking forward to as far as the future goes? Like, next time that we have this conversation, that you hope that you'll have maybe achieved, or things that you're dreaming about as far as what the future holds for you.
I guess the biggest thing that I dream about each and every day is I want to get to the point where my wife can work with me full time. Can do this with me full time, where she could step away from her current job and we can go to all the places, do all the filming. And she is so good at being creative with certain things when it comes to posting on Instagram and stuff like that. She's able to create these different images and whatnot. I just want to be able to share it with her 100%, 4 years ago, she was the one that kept saying, you should start a YouTube channel. You should start a YouTube channel. And I didn't believe her. I didn't listen. I didn't think people were going to watch. So one major goal is for me to be able to film with her, to do this whole thing 100% all in, so that she can enjoy every single part of it. Because there's days where I'll go and do a certain car, film a certain car, or be able to do a certain thing, and I come home and I share with her. But it'd be great to really share it with her and have her there. So that would be one thing for sure. You know, I keep pushing on trying to get more contacts. You know, being connected with the manufacturers themselves opens up the door to so many opportunities to get more information. And the more information that I have access to means the more information that my subscribers have access to. So that is something that, you know, I want to try to continue. It's funny because in a way, I sometimes feel like I'm in sales. Like there's a lot of door knocking. There's a lot of cold calling to go and get access to the things that I do. Not every YouTuber is going to have that situation. They may be able to just create it themselves right in their own home. But for me, I need access to cars. And, you know, I already did a bunch of door knocking and cold calling and got a lot of no's, but the road, there's still more to go, because I don't have contacts with every manufacturer. So that's something that I also want to push forward on. And really the biggest thing is, once this world situation can kind of find some kind of resolve, my goal for 2020 was, and beyond, is to get out there more and meet more of the people that support me, you know, to do more filming of even subscribers' cars, you know, in other states, maybe even other countries. You know, that would be phenomenal. It's interesting because I'm not looking for a certain number. You know, yes, it's nice to celebrate. Like we just celebrated 250,000 subscribers. And obviously 300 is right around the corner. But for me, it's not about the number. It's about having the experiences, having the connections, and just finding more ways to connect. And hopefully, like I said, I could keep working on my time management to where I have more time to interact with the subscribers. Because the crazy thing in all this is that I watch no YouTube. Like, there's no other channels that I watch, even if I wanted to, because I'm always focused on mine. So,
yeah. That's similar to podcasting. People are like, oh, what do you like? It's like, well, I don't listen to any podcasts.
It's crazy how this has really just kind of taken on a form of its own. And you know, there's definitely lots of great things about it, but there's also, you know, there's no perfect job. There's no perfect situation. And I think that, you know, for me, I just want to be able to share it with as many people as I can. And I think probably the best compliment that anybody could ever give me, and that thankfully I hear more and more, is that they say, Joe, I didn't even care about the car, truck, SUV, whatever you were reviewing. I just wanted to hear what you were going to say about it. To me, I feel like that really is a big win, and really shows the whole influencing thing,
right?
Rather than people just coming to get facts on cars, you know?
Yeah, and that's what makes people stay. You know, if they want to hear about a car, you can go any other channel too.
There's so many, and you know, that's the one thing, you know, just to kind of tie off the loose ends here is be careful with comparing yourself to other channels. It's easy to go on there, and it's good to get ideas. You know, I'm not saying, hey, don't look at what somebody else is doing, because a lot of times, why reinvent the wheel? Why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? But you got to be careful. I don't know if I said this last time, but I'm definitely going to say it this time. there's that old saying, and it's so true. Comparison is the thief of all joy. It's like you could start this journey and you have your channel going, and then the first second you're like, oh, let me see what other people are doing that are similar to me. That's when you start cutting yourself down. Now, it could have some good attributes where you say, oh, this person's doing this. Maybe I could adapt that to my situation. But if you fall into the trap where it's bumming you out because you don't have as many subscribers as that person, or that person is doing it, quote unquote, better than you, that's when you kind of have to just push away from the table and not do that, because it's gonna be counterproductive.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I had a guest, Elaine Fluker. She has a podcast where she interviewed someone every day for over 2 years.
Wow.
And she said that you can't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. You can't compare someone that's been doing it for a long time and being like, hey, I haven't reached that yet. Or, someone's doing something different. It's like, well, you can't even really, it's not apples to apples.
And exactly, like, in my segment of the auto review industry on YouTube, the guy who's like the godfather is Doug DeMauro. And, Doug DeMauro has something like over 3 million subscribers, but you also have to take into consideration when that channel was started. Yes, he's been doing it for about 10 years, but YouTube was so different 10 years ago, and it was the algorithms were different. There's so many different variables here. And this is why it's better to just do this whole thing for wanting to have fun, for wanting to share your passion, because if you go number crazy, it's going to drive you nuts. And that's why YouTube, I'm sure you saw, now when you go to somebody's channel, you can't see specific how many subscribers they have down to the last digit. Everything's been rounded. And I guess they did that because they felt like there were people who were constantly going on YouTube just to see what their subscriber count was, or what
numbers
other
game
people's counts were.
Yeah. And I had actually another podcaster, Mark Metry. He's got tens of millions of downloads on his podcast. But he said he never even looked at his analytics. He's just, it takes time, right? It takes time to go and look at analytics. But with that time he could have spent looking at analytics, he created more content. And then by creating more content, it builds more. So a lot of times people get hung up on the numbers when, if that could just be more of a distraction oftentimes.
And that I'm the same way. I maybe look at my analytics page maybe once a month, maybe. It's sort of like investing in the stock market. If you're investing in the stock market, you don't want to look at your portfolio every single day, because it's going to go up and it's going to go down. I mean, that's just the way of the world. So, but that's good. Definitely don't do this for the numbers, because people are going to know that you're doing it for the numbers.
Right. Just to mention, back when you were talking about you want to do more in-person stuff, I talked to David from That Dude in Blue. He's got 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Yeah. And he said that he's doing more like social gatherings where he can choose a place he wants to go, or maybe he's on a trip, get a group there to bring their cars, and then it's like a car meet / he'll test drive a handful of cars while he's there. So it's a way to get content and engage with the community.
For sure. Yeah,
so that's what he's working on.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, when we had, it was a bummer. I had to cancel the Raity's Rides 200K celebration, which was back in March. Because of the, we weren't allowed to have big social gatherings. That's one thing that I love is that I saw by doing the celebrations at Walker Ford was we would have for the 100K celebration, we had over 400 people show up and over 300 cars, because I made it like not a car show, but like a car gathering. So people were able to bring out their cars, and all the people came to celebrate too, which was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a big turnout.
Yeah, it was, and everybody was so disappointed about the cancellation. But I mean, we had to. It was Walker Ford that they could put themselves at some type of liability to still host it. And that's one thing that definitely I wanted to bring up too, is that I found that I did have certain people come out and say, how can you be filming right now? There's a world pandemic going on. People don't care about cars right now. What is wrong with you? why are you not at home doing what you're supposed to be doing according to whatever their laws in their city or state? And I found that during this time, I think people need what I'm doing even more, because it's a respite. It's a respite, a break from all the insanity, from your day, to be able to each day tune in and see what's going on. You know, the good news is that was very, very minimal. Maybe like I had four or five different people reach out and say something like that. Other than that, people have thanked me over and over again for continuing to bring the content. And thankfully, like I said, we live in a state where I was able to still do that.
Yeah, I had a guest, Jason Horton. He's got a very successful podcast. He's got a good YouTube channel. He's got 500,000 on TikTok that follow him. So he's a good all-around balanced influencer. And he said, if you're not getting hate, you're not going big enough. So he embraced it. He was like, I want that hate, because the more I get, you know, like if you think about people that are actors and stuff that are doing nothing but good things in the world, but you're going to find people that hate them or hate on them. So if you're not getting that hate, then people aren't talking about you.
That I don't know if you've watched the documentary, The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. I mean, that's something that he said is when you get to that top, people want to chop you down. You know, it's that they're going to come after you. They're going to come out of the woodwork. And that just means that you're up there.
Right. So knowing that a lot of listeners here are people that, you know, are either trying to get their voice out there or going bigger with their voice. So maybe they've already established on a certain platform and want to go bigger. Do you have any last words for our listeners here today before I open the floor for you to tell the best way to find you?
Sure. I would definitely say, listen, just you got to do what feels good. Consistency is the key. You know, I feel like if you let people know who you are, what you're about, and then they see that on a regular basis, doesn't maybe have to be daily, but that doesn't hurt. That's for sure, because people want daily content. They want to feel like they know you. I think that's really what's going to be very beneficial to grow your platform. You know, you got to be your brand and be seen as much as you can. One thing that I've been a little proud of is even more so than the amount of subscribers that I have on YouTube is the amount of followers on Instagram. I don't remember how many followers on Instagram that I had the last time I talked, but I don't think it was very much. And finally, we broke like 7,000 on Instagram, which that's been a challenge for me. It's interesting because going to some of the events, I get to meet other social media influencers that are not YouTube related, that do have 200,000 followers on Instagram. And they say the same thing to me that I say to them. I say to them, how did you do that? And then they turn around and they're like, well, how did you grow it on YouTube? It's funny how it doesn't always work out where you're really growing on one platform and not on another. But I think using all the platforms you have to, even though I don't have a massive Twitter following, I still try to post on there for the people that are there. You know, I just once.
And the people that are there are most likely, you know, considered super fans. So they're the people that have been watching YouTube, and then they dug deeper to see how else can I follow this guy, and definitely they end up there. So it's
one other thing that I read that I think is so true when it comes to getting your content out there. It needs to be original. And what I mean by that is obviously it needs to be your content. If you're just copying other people's stuff, I mean, I don't know if people want to see that, go whatever floats your boat. But I find that it's very helpful that you post certain things on Instagram and Instagram alone. Have separate things to post on Facebook, and Facebook don't, you know, you can link up all your accounts. And I've done this from time to time because it just makes it easier from a time perspective. But I find that people enjoy seeing certain things on Facebook that they don't see on Instagram, and vice versa. And I think that helps grow the channel, believe it or not, or whatever your platform is.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, every platform is completely different. And you might meet someone that has a large following on Instagram, doesn't understand YouTube, and vice versa. That's why I try to interview people on all different platforms to see, what those worlds look like. But they're all completely different and need to be treated completely differently if you're actually trying to go big on any particular one.
Definitely.
And I think just tackling one first makes the most sense. Like, you tackled YouTube really hard, and that's your main platform. And then now you've got this community that over time can be sort of dripped into these other places.
Definitely.
All right. So I appreciate you coming on today. What's the best way for people to reach out to you if they listen to you here today and want to say, hey, like, I got some value, or just want to start following you, or engage with you? Where do you want people to go? What do you suggest?
Well, I think the easiest way, is you could follow me on Instagram. It's just simply Raity's Rides on Instagram. I actually try to respond to as many messages that I get from people on Instagram. We do have a Raity's Rides specific Facebook page. That's another way that if you want to drop me a line, ask me a question about a car, have a question about camera gear, or how to do something on YouTube or whatever, you could obviously reach me out there. If you go to YouTube, my YouTube channel, I have my email there, raitiesrides@gmail. And that's another way to reach out. And I do my best. I mean, obviously I can't get to all of them, but I get to a lot of them. So it's always fun to get a response from somebody when they're like, wow, you actually read my email and responded to me? I'm like, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that was a big piece of advice last time we talked, is to reply to every single comment. And I know that you spend a lot of time doing that because I see you engaging with everyone as much as possible.
It's tough, man. I mean, I think last Tuesday, I was on the computer for about 4 or 5 hours. I was able to, in a 4 or 5 hour gap of time, I was able to go back a day in comments. So I was able to cover the last 24 hours. Yeah.
We have Honda Pro, who said, true story, be authentic and love what you do. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, Honda Pro Jason's a good guy.
Nice.
Great channel. Definitely want to check him out. He's a good guy.
Cool. I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes for this episode, as I did last time. If you're listening now and you enjoyed Joe's conversation here, go check out the first conversation that we had with him on episode 7 on the podcast, which is on my website. You can just type in the top right in the search bar, Raiti or Raity's Rides Joe. He'll come up there. But if you enjoy this content, please go ahead and subscribe. And Joe, I just want to say thank you again so much for coming on today. Tons of value. It's exciting to see the progress it's made in such a short time. And I know that's a exponential growth curve for you. So I'm looking forward to seeing next time that we talk that your wife has quit her job. She's working full time with you so that you can share these experiences. You've got a nice stable income so that you can give more and be more at these communities. So thanks again for coming on today.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, and it's great to see you grow as well. And that's what it's all about, is helping each other.
Real quick before I let you go, I like because I'm on this journey of trying to grow as with podcasting and things. And you've been here since the last time that we talked, which is the beginnings. Do you have any feedback for me?
I think this new platform, doing it this way, I really, really enjoy. Because the last time we did it, there was no visual to it. I think this is a really nice setup. And I can't wait to see how it turned out. But I think having that live feed going on Instagram, I think if there's more ways that you could have other platforms be live at the same time, obviously would just exponentially be able to get you reach to all other people. But I mean, just like last time, you have a great demeanor, you ask great questions, and it's super smooth and very just a conversation. It doesn't have to be an interrogation or anything like that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your feedback, and thanks again